All right, what's up guys? Today I'm joined by Marshall from Argali, and what we're going to do today is we're going to go through all of Argali's tents that they have here. We got them all set up behind us, and Marshall is going to give us the rundown of all these tents, what accessories you've got for them, what you can do with them, and really what their max capacity is or their realistic capacity.
All right, so right here we have the Owyhee 1P tent. This is going to be the minimalist style backpacker. It's going to be our lightest tent in our lineup. You're going to be able to pitch this tent with a single trekking pole or with a center pole, and it does actually have an insert option, so you can run this tent with an insert if you wanted. So great option for people who are really looking to go as light as possible, as minimal as possible. You can run it with or without the insert, so you got a couple options there. If you're running it with just a trekking pole, you're going to be like 16 ounces for a tent and stakes. It's pretty wicked that way.
And I can confirm, I mean, I'm a taller guy, I'm 6'6", but I fit in this without either touching each end, which is super, super nice. That's a problem that a lot of people have is, you know, when your head or your feet are touching one end or the other, that crunches the down on the sleeping bag and it makes it a little chillier inside. But this has plenty of room for a one person.
Absolutely. And the other bonus to this tent is because it's a lower profile, it will shed wind very well. It actually has the 6 primary guy out points and then 5 secondary guy out points. So you tie some paracord there, give yourself an option to make this tent super sturdy. It does great in high winds. For sure. That early season mule deer guy or, you know, the through hiker, either way, great tent for those guys. Next is our Rincon 2P tent, which is a little bit bigger tent. It's almost double the square footage of this guy here. If you're going with one person, I call it the one person castle, because you can have one person on one side of the tent and a giant vestibule on the other side of the tent. In the 1P, we don't get to have our gear kicked out. In the 2P, you can spread, you can go full yard sale and let all of your gear hang out. Yeah, it's an awesome tent for that.
That's perfect. The layout of it, you said before that these are all kind of built on a square frame for the most part, or a rectangular frame?
Yeah, so this tent's built off of a rectangular, basically a rectangle to be able to make it more easy to pitch and more accessible for people pitching on different topography, different ground. Obviously, we got a nice flat grassy spot here right now. But in the mountains, that's not usually the case. Yeah, so with the 2P tent, you're gonna get all the stakes on the bottom for the primary guy out points. Again, like the 1P, it's got a little bit lower profile, and so it is a bomber shelter in some high wind, high weather use. And with that, you have 8 primary guy out points, and you have 7 secondary guy out points where you can then go tie off paracord and stake it out to either a tree, to rocks, things like that. They can give you internal space, but more strength as well. The one thing I should mention too on the 2P is we have a removable stove jack system. And so that allows you to be able to backpack this tent still ultra light without the stove jack in case you're not planning to use a stove that trip. So you have that option to zip that in or zip that out.
Well, after 2 people, what if you got 3?
If you got 3, you jump over to the Lemhi, which is our newest tent in our lineup and one that people have been very excited about.
Yes, I saw this one and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't pumped about it.
Yeah, so this tent does a lot of things that our 2P doesn't. It actually does a couple things even our 4P doesn't. And so people have been very excited about this tent. There's a couple new designs to this. Obviously, you're gonna see there's 2 poles inside of there. So this is a twin peak pole tent. When you have a twin peak tent, one of the big things you're gonna get is a lot more usable space because you have a lot steeper vertical sidewalls. And so you have more usable internal space on that tent. You'll notice we have a waterproof zipper on this tent instead of a zipper flap like these. So that helps mitigate weight. And then we have 2 versions of this tent. We have a stove jack version and a double door version. Right now you're looking at the stove jack. From there you can't really tell, but on the back side there's not a second zipper. There's actually a stove jack where you could put a stove.
Can confirm.
Yeah, so why would somebody jump up to the 3P instead of maybe the 4P or instead of the 2P?
Right.
Well, one of the things is if you want to be 2 people in a stove, you got to be in at least the 3P or the 4P, or you can jump up to one of the bigger tents as well. But if you're going to have 2 people in a stove, you need to be in at least this 3P. One of the biggest things that people have enjoyed about this is that you can have separate half inserts and still have a stove in between you.
Well, that's so nice because like in the backcountry, you don't think about it, but if you're hunting with other people or hunting with buddies, it's really nice to have your own space. Yeah. And you don't think about it on day 1, maybe you're thinking about it on day 2, and by day 3 you're like, man, I need a little bit of just a room in here, right? Exactly. So having 2 inserts, one on each side, that's gonna be killer. Yeah, it's already been really popular with people, and yeah, it's been super well received. It's been awesome to see. So with the Lemhi 3P tent, you can use a 2P half insert
or you can use a 2P half floor. And those would be the two compatible products with it.
Okay.
You can pitch it with a set of trekking poles. It's a peak height of 54 inches, so
same as here?
Same as the 2P here, but basically you need to be able to make sure your trekking poles can extend to that height, or you can buy a set of center poles. The most common situation of this tent is definitely going to be 2 dudes in there with gear. If you have 2 half inserts in there, you'll have enough space to put in your backpacks and then have a stove as well and a little wood pile. If you're 1 person, you'll have a lot of space and you could still
it's 1 person in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, 1 person in the kitchen sink and you could carry it. It's not that heavy that you couldn't do it.
Right.
And that's the really nice thing about it.
So from going to the 2 person, like you said, this is kind of the 1 person castle. So you get room for 2 people, but it's really 1 person with gear and potentially a stove.
Yep.
In this case, this is the 2 person castle, if you will, right? I mean, you get to a 4 person, but really you got a person on each side, a stove in the middle, room for packs, bows, guns, things like that, and you're comfortable with 2.
Yep. I think the thing I think of with the 3P and the 4P is if you're doing 2 guys and you want to be floorless, the 4P gives you more space.
Sure.
The tried and true, been around the longest, the tent that, you know, kind of put us on the map, honestly. So the Absaroka 4P, like the 2P, has the half insert, has the full insert, has the half floor, but it's a little bit taller peak height. So this is a 74-inch peak height when you have it pitched up a little bit taller. It's not going to have as many guy out points as the 2P or the 3P because it has 2 doors.
Sure.
So it has 8 primary guy out points, but only 6 secondary guy out points. And that's one of the things about it. It's a little bit taller tent. So you get more headroom in that space, but you don't get that low profile, doing better with wind in comparison to the 2P and the 3P.
For sure.
Now, if I'm running this tent, this is still my go-to in October in Idaho, running 2 dudes in a stove, because we'll sleep floorless in this, but then we'll have separate doors. We'll each have a door for ourselves. We'll have the stove in between us, and then we'll have our gear in between us. We'll have a wood pile, and we'll have a lot of room. I've had many nights, many days playing cards inside of the tent with a lot of snow coming down, not much hunting being done. So
so you could run a 2P, you could run a 2P and a floorless, you could run a 2P and just the floor.
Yep.
So just endless combinations.
A lot of different combinations with this tent. And when you're talking about how many people will actually fit in there, I'd say it's 4 people, no gear. It's 3 people, a little bit of gear. It's 2 people, as much gear as you want. 1 person realistically could still carry it. And yeah, Taj Mahal, man, you got it all. But that does depend on what you're putting in there. If you're doing a full insert, then it counts for the 4 people, no gear, 3 people, just a little bit of gear. If you're running a 2P insert or the half insert in this tent, the other person, the 3rd person would have to sleep out on the ground, and then the 2 people would be right next to each other on that insert. If you're running it floorless, I don't typically use the actual 4P half floor because you'll have to sleep right next to the person.
Sure.
And we'll run 2 separate floors, 2 2P half floors, which are just the size of a sleeping pad. Our ground cloth that's just going to protect your sleeping pad, and then we'll sleep on those, kind of dispersed differently inside the tent.
Gotcha. No, that makes a ton of sense. I think this one's going to be pretty bulletproof too. I plan on using this one a lot. Like I said, slept in it last night, got tested a little bit with some water and some sprinklers out in the lawn here, which was awesome, but I think this is going to be a killer setup. Just the modularity of what you can do with a 4P tent like this is, you got endless opportunity.
All right, so we got our 6P tent here.
This is massive.
This gets a lot bigger.
This is massive.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about the 6P is it gets a lot taller. I'm 5'11", I can actually stand inside it, but I can't quite put on a jacket. You won't be able to quite stand in it, but you can crawl around and feel more confident walking into this tent. In comparison,
at least comfortably sit up in just about every spot in the tent. You know, versus some of the other ones, they're shorter, but they're shorter for a reason, because like you said, they're basically bomb-proof, wind-proof, all that stuff. This one, you still have that stability, but you just get a little bit more height out of it.
Absolutely, and then you're gonna gain some more space. And so with the TP style tents, to get more space inside there, basically you have to go a little bit taller. Our 6P, you're gonna be able to fit 6 dudes, just a little bit of gear. You could fit 5 dudes gear, 4 dudes, all the gear you really could need, 3 dudes in a stove, 2 dudes in a stove, and extra Helinox chairs, and wood, and books, and a library. Like, you could do it as much as you want inside of here.
Sure.
This tent has a lot of different accessory pieces as well. So it comes standard when you get a 6P tent. It's going to come with the center pole.
Okay.
It's going to be the first tent in our lineup where that actually happens, because it's so tall. You're required to have that specific center pole.
Okay.
Where these ones have the different options. With that, it also comes with a half floor. So you're going to get the tent, the center pole, the stakes, and a half floor when you buy a 6P tent. The things you can add onto it, you can add a second half floor if you wanted to have a floor across the whole tent. Can't quite burn a stove on a floor though, so it's still nice to have just a half floor. You can do a liner. The liner is going to be a piece of fabric that basically sticks up to the tent wall and helps mitigate condensation on the inside there. And then you can do a half insert. So you can do a half insert and a stove inside this tent. With that, you'll be able to fit 3 sleeping bags, and then you'll still have a giant vestibule space and a stove on the other side.
Dirty boots, gear, bows.
Yeah, exactly. That's the take off your wet clothes, all the other stuff before I want to get into my nice warm sleeping bag.
Right.
Make sure everything stays nice and tidy over on this side.
For sure. And so you hit on liner, but how is liner different than insert?
Yeah, it's the thing that gets people tripped up a lot. Yeah, so liner is simply just a piece of cloth material with some G-hooks, and it is going to just attach to the tent wall and stay up against the tent wall. It's not going to give you the bathtub floor. It's not going to give you any bug protection. It's just simply acting as a double wall to stop the condensation from dripping on you.
Gotcha.
The insert will do that same thing with the bug mesh. It'll stop the condensation from dripping on you, but it's also going to give you the bathtub floor, the 3-inch bathtub floor, and the mosquito protection, the netting protection.
So the liner is for people that are noticing condensation but don't necessarily want a whole insert. They just want to stop the condensation.
Yeah, and so one of the things I would run a liner, because I'm going to minimize my weight by using just a liner instead of a full insert. You know, an insert's sweet, but it weighs a lot.
Right.
And so it also takes up a lot of space in your backpack. If you think this tent packs down pretty small, but not the smallest, the half insert of this tent packs down to the same size as this whole tent, just because bug mesh and the bathtub floor doesn't compress as well as silk poly. Yep.
And so one of the things to think about too is once you start stepping into this one, and even maybe the 4-person a little bit, is you're usually probably going with multiple people, right?
Yeah.
In a tent like this. So it might be the case where if me and you are going and we want a Taj Mahal for 2 people, I might carry everything that relates to the tent, and maybe you carry like my sleeping bag or something like that, and you kind of like split the load a little bit, or maybe you carry the mesh part and I carry the tent part. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely. That's one of the nice things about these modular tents, where you can break down the weight a lot. So, you know, you could go all the way down to a stake. You could be like, 1 stake for you, 1 stake for me. With this tent,
2 stakes for you, 1 for me.
Exactly. The only part that's the heaviest part of this tent is going to be the shell itself. But then you could, some person could take the stakes. You could break up the center pole. They're all separate pieces in the center pole, so you could share that weight. One of the things we do in our camp a lot is we'll just take 1 stove that we're cooking on, and so whoever's not carrying the shelter is carrying the stove or the water filter, things like that. But it does lend itself really well to being able to break up the weight and make sure that no one's necessarily having to carry extra, unless you're being the nice guy in the group.
Unless you're the big, strong guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, so from the 6-person, I mean, we can go up. But
we can go up, yeah. And this is where we kind of top out right now. This is our Yukon 8P tent.
Which is just like, this is the base camp of base camps.
Yeah, this is going to be as big a camp as you could ever need, made out of silk poly. It's a great tent if you got stock to carry it for you. Otherwise, it's just about on the outside of me wanting to put it on my back to carry it around. This thing is a super tall tent. I have it pitched pretty tall right now as well, but it holds up super well to the wind. It's got super steep sidewalls, and then it's got a lot of different uses as well. So we actually just released a half insert that covers this tent and gives you a bug mesh bathtub floor, like we've been talking with all the other tents. And you could do 2 of them in this tent, just like in the 3P. So you could have 2 separate half inserts in this tent. And then you would still have a center vestibule space.
You would, okay.
Yeah, what's really nice. You'll only be able to sleep 2 people in each one of those. So you'd have 4 people inside of inserts, and then you'd have a center vestibule between them. So it gives you some options there. You do have the same liner. It's a different size than the 6P, but you have a liner to stay up against the tent wall in here. You got the half floor. So just like the 6P, when you buy an 8P, you're gonna get the floor, you're gonna get the 2 center poles that you're seeing here, and the tent and all the stakes you're required to pitch on the bottom. This tent comes with 22 stakes.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's a lot of staking it out because it's a big tent. You needs to be able to handle it. With it, it also has 12 secondary guy out points. so you can really make this thing stable. I've had it in some crazy winds. We've had some customers have it some even crazier winds than I've gotten to be a part of.
I bet.
But yeah, it does
it's impressive
super well.
how like a structure like this, like you would think it would catch a lot of wind being tall, but it does, but it's sturdy. Like you said, it's got a ton of stakes, a ton of extra guy out points, and we've had this up for what, 24 hours at this point, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You can probably hear it. We're catching a lot of wind from the north too. And I mean, it moves, but you haven't even done any of the extra guy out points. Like this is just on the
just
floor.
the tent, just the bottom pieces, and that's one of the nice things about our tents. They shed wind really well, and yeah, I don't carry extra paracord to guy them out for that reason, because I expect them to do just as good all the time.
Right. And it's just nice to have the option if necessary, if you're getting caught in something crazy.
Yeah, 100%. And then with this tent, you can run a stove on the end of it, so you could put in one of those half inserts, have a giant vestibule area, camp chairs, everything you could possibly need, and then a stove in there as well.
Sure.
And so this tent does a great job. This is what I use for base camps on those later season hunts.
Yep.
And I'll throw in one of your guys' big cots that you guys have.
Yep.
I can get 2 of those cots in here and a stove, and then if you got smaller totes, they fit underneath the cots. It is a sweet setup. Yeah, I'll have the Helinox chairs. I'll have those little chairs set up and be cooking inside there. Yeah.
And this is one you're saying you'd set up base camp basically next to your truck when you pull up to a spot, right?
Yep.
Because this, you know the weight on this one? Even
yeah, you're
just the tent
with
part?
the tent, stakes, and center poles, you're right around 9 pounds.
Okay, so I mean it's hefty, but
yeah, you could do it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest things for me is it's going to take up a lot of space in your backpack just to get that tent in there. But if you were committed, you could do it. If you had pack goats, if you had llamas, if you had horses, I think the new crowd for horses is going to be, instead of carrying the big canvas tents that they're used to carrying in there, this tent's going to save their horse a lot of space. You can save a lot of space inside their panners, and then they'll be able to have still just the same size of the tent that they're used to.
Absolutely, 100%. So I mean, realistically, what do we have? A 1-person, 2-person, 3-person, 4-person, 6-person, 8-person, and that covers basically any scenario you could possibly have in the backcountry.
Yeah, you're going to be able to get, like, we'll be able to find a tent that's going to be able to fit your needs.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing. It's kind of where we wanted to go find all the tents that people could possibly need. And then, you know, we had the 2P and we had the 4P and realized that, you know what, people want to have separate living quarters but still have a stove. So that's where the 3P came from.
Yeah, I love that. The innovation's awesome. The structure is awesome. The thought behind why you do things the way you do is fantastic. Obviously, as a consumer, it's really cool to see that. It's really cool to experience it, and I'm pumped to get these out in the fall.
Yeah, they're excited to be out there. I'm excited to be out there with them.
Yeah, 100%. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.